How to predict long life after 70. Science-backed. In a small coastal town nestled between rolling hills and a shimmering ocean, lived an elderly woman named Clara. At 72, Clara was a beacon of vitality, her laughter echoing through the town square, her eyes sparkling with stories of a life well lived. Everyone wondered, what was her secret? How did she remain so vibrant while others her age seemed to fade? Clara's story wasn't just one of luck, it was a testament to science-backed principles that anyone could follow to predict and achieve a long, fulfilling life past 70. Clara's journey began decades ago, when she was just a young woman working as a librarian. She loved books, not just for their stories but for the wisdom they held. One day, she stumbled upon a dusty medical journal in the library's archives. It discussed emerging research on longevity, how lifestyle, mindset, and environment could influence not just how long someone lived, but how well they lived. Intrigued, Clara made a quiet promise to herself. She would live intentionally, guided by knowledge, not chance. The science of longevity, Clara's 5 pillars. Clara's approach to a long life revolved around 5 science-backed pillars she discovered through years of reading, experimenting, and reflecting. These weren't just abstract theories, they were practical habits she wove into her daily life, and they became the foundation of her remarkable vitality. 1. Nourish the body with purpose. Clara learned early on that food wasn't just fuel, it was medicine. Studies from the Blue Zones, regions like Okinawa and Sardinia, where people live exceptionally long lives, showed that diets rich in whole foods, vegetables, fruits, legumes, and lean proteins were key. Clara didn't follow fads. Instead, she filled her plate with colorful produce from the local market, cooked with olive oil, and savored small portions of fish or poultry. She avoided processed foods, not out of dogma, but because she saw them as empty promises that robbed her body of vitality. One sunny afternoon, Clara invited her neighbor, Tom, a skeptical 68-year-old retiree, to her garden. As they picked fresh tomatoes and basil, she shared a 2019 study from the Journal of the American Medical Association that linked plant-based diets to a 12% lower risk of mortality in older adults. "It's not about living forever," she told Tom, her hands dirty with soil, "but about feeling alive every day." Tom, inspired, started growing his own herbs, a small step toward change. 2. Move naturally every day. Clara wasn't a gym enthusiast, but she never stopped moving. She walked to the market, tended her garden, and danced to old jazz records in her living room. Science supported her instinct. A 2020 study in The Lancet found that older adults who engaged in moderate physical activity, like walking or gardening, for at least 150 minutes a week, had a 31% lower risk of chronic diseases. Clara didn't need a treadmill. She let life be her exercise. One winter, when a storm kept her indoors, Clara started a stair challenge with her grandchildren, racing up and down her staircase to their giggles. It wasn't just fun, it kept her heart strong and her joints flexible. She told her friends at the community center, "Movement is joy, not a chore. Find what makes you smile and do it daily." 3. Cultivate a resilient mind. Clara's optimism wasn't blind, it was cultivated. She'd faced her share of hardships, losing her husband young, raising 2 children alone, but she leaned on mindfulness and gratitude to stay grounded. Research from Harvard's Longevity Project, spanning 8 decades, showed that emotional resilience and a positive outlook were stronger predictors of long life than genetics. Clara practiced this daily, jotting down 3 things she was grateful for each night, from a kind word to a sunset's glow. When Tom confessed he felt purposeless after retirement, Clara shared her journal habit. "Write one thing that made today worth living," she urged. Tom started, reluctantly at first, but soon found himself noticing small joys, a neighbor's wave, a good cup of coffee. Over time, his outlook shifted, and he felt lighter, more connected. 4. Build a tribe. Clara's home was never empty. Friends, neighbors, and family flowed through, sharing meals and stories. She wasn't just sociable, she was intentional about it. A 2015 meta-analysis in Perspectives on Psychological Science found that strong social connections reduced mortality risk by up to 26% in older adults. Clara knew loneliness was a silent killer, so she hosted weekly potlucks, joined a book club, and volunteered at the local school. One evening, at a potluck, Tom arrived looking nervous. He'd been isolating since his wife passed. Clara welcomed him warmly, introducing him to others. By the night's end, Tom was laughing, swapping stories about his old fishing days. "You don't just live longer with friends," Clara later told him. "You live better." 5. Never stop learning. Clara's mind was as active as her body. She took up painting at 65, learned Italian at 70, and was now dabbling in astronomy. A 2016 study in neurology showed that lifelong learning, whether through reading, hobbies, or new skills, delayed cognitive decline by strengthening neural pathways. Clara saw her brain as a garden: neglect it, and it withered; tend it, and it thrived. She encouraged Tom to join her astronomy group. At first, he grumbled about being too old to learn, but Clara's enthusiasm was infectious. One night, peering through a telescope at a distant star, Tom felt a spark he hadn't in years. "It's never too late to be curious," Clara said, grinning. The ripple effect. Clara's life wasn't just a personal triumph, it inspired her community. Tom, once skeptical, became her biggest advocate, sharing her habits with others. The town started a Long Life Club where seniors gathered to garden, walk, and learn together. They swapped recipes, held gratitude circles, and even organized stargazing nights. The club wasn't about chasing youth, but embracing age with purpose. Clara's story spread beyond the town. A local journalist wrote about her, and soon, people from neighboring cities visited, eager to learn her secrets. She'd laugh and say, "It's not a secret, it's science." She'd point them to studies, like the 2018 Nature article, showing how lifestyle interventions could extend health span years lived in good health by up to a decade. The science in action. Clara's pillars weren't just habits, they were backed by decades of research. The New England Journal of Medicine, 2020, showed that adhering to a healthy diet, regular exercise, and social engagement could reduce the risk of heart disease by 35% and dementia by 23% in those over 70. Mindfulness practices, per a 2017 Journal of Alzheimer's Disease study, lowered stress hormones that accelerate aging. Lifelong learning, as shown in Neuropsychology 2019, boosted cognitive reserve, helping the brain adapt to age-related changes. Clara's life was proof. You didn't need wealth, perfect genes, or a fancy gym. You needed intention. Her days were filled with purpose, tending her garden, laughing with friends, learning new constellations. She wasn't chasing immortality. She was savoring every moment. A call to action. Clara's story isn't unique. She's not a superhero, just a woman who chose to live well. Her 5 pillars offer a roadmap for anyone over 70 or approaching it to predict and achieve a long, vibrant life. Start small. Swap one processed snack for a piece of fruit. Take a 10-minute walk. Write down one thing you're grateful for. Call a friend, or learn a new word in another language. These aren't grand gestures, they're choices that compound over time. As Clara sat on her porch one evening, watching the sunset with Tom and their astronomy group, she felt a quiet pride. She hadn't just lived past 70, she'd thrived. And she knew anyone could too, with a little science and a lot of heart.